There's someone in your life right now who knows exactly how old you are, knows your past, your patterns, your silence, and still feels something deep for you. And the unsettling part? You've probably overlooked them completely. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal might change how you see every interaction around you. And before we go any further, take 1 second to subscribe and like this video. Not for me, but because what you're about to hear might be the insight you didn't even know you needed. Now listen carefully. Most men believe attraction follows a predictable script. Youth, looks, timing, status. You've been conditioned to think these are the rules. But real emotional attachment doesn't follow rules. It follows connection, familiarity, and something far more dangerous, emotional safety. And that's where you come in. There's a woman who has already seen your flaws, not the surface-level ones you joke about. I mean the real ones. The hesitation in your voice when you're unsure, the way you sometimes withdraw, the quiet insecurities you think you hide well. She's noticed all of it, and instead of walking away, she stayed emotionally close. That's not accidental. Women don't invest emotionally without a reason, especially not over time. Especially not after fully understanding a man's reality, his age, his situation, his imperfections. When a woman continues to show up in small, consistent ways, it means something deeper is happening beneath the surface. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. You didn't notice her because she didn't demand your attention. She didn't compete for it. She didn't create chaos. She didn't play games that force you to chase. Instead, she existed quietly in your world, observing, understanding, feeling. And most men miss that, because you were looking for intensity, not depth. You were drawn to unpredictability, not consistency. You were chasing signals that feel exciting, while ignoring the one that feels real. And now, you're at a point where you might start realizing something is off. That familiar presence, that calm energy, it's been there longer than you thought. But you haven't asked yourself the most important question yet. Why would someone choose you, fully aware of everything you think makes you less desirable? That question is where everything begins to shift. You've been taught to believe that love is selective, that it filters people out based on age, timing, and where they are in life. But what no one tells you is this: real emotional attachment often ignores logic completely. And that's exactly what's happening here. She didn't fall for a version of you that doesn't exist. She didn't build a fantasy around potential. She saw the reality, your age, your habits, your rhythm, and still felt drawn in. That's rare, because most people walk away the moment reality doesn't match their expectations. But she didn't. Instead, she adapted to your presence. She became comfortable in your world without trying to reshape it. That's not coincidence. That's emotional alignment. And here's where it gets deeper. A woman who connects with you on that level doesn't just see who you are, she understands how you think. She starts predicting your reactions. She knows when you'll pull back, when you'll stay quiet, when you'll avoid something instead of confronting it. And instead of being frustrated, she becomes patient. That patience? It's not weakness, it's investment. Because when a woman chooses to stay emotionally available around a man who isn't fully aware of her feelings, she's taking a risk. She's choosing uncertainty over clarity, and she does it quietly. No dramatic confessions, no pressure, no ultimatums, just presence. And that's exactly why you didn't recognize it. Because it didn't feel urgent. It didn't shake your emotions or demand immediate action. It felt normal. Too normal. But here's the truth that most men never hear. The woman who feels the deepest connection to you is rarely the one creating the loudest impact in your life. She's the one who listens more than she speaks. The one who remembers small details you forgot you even shared. The one who doesn't disappear, even when you become distant. And now, something inside you might be starting to click. Because there's a face in your mind right now. Someone who fits this pattern almost perfectly. And if you're honest, you've never truly questioned why she stayed this long. You assumed it was casual. You assumed it didn't mean anything. But what if you were wrong? What if her consistency wasn't accidental, but intentional? Because here's where things begin to take a turn you didn't expect. Her feelings didn't grow in the way you think they did. They didn't come from excitement, they came from something much harder to break. And once you understand what that is, you'll realize why walking away from her might not be as simple as you think. Her feelings didn't come from excitement, they came from familiarity. And familiarity is one of the most underestimated emotional forces you'll ever experience. Because excitement fades. It rises fast, burns bright, and disappears just as quickly. But familiarity, it builds slowly, almost invisibly, until one day it feels impossible to replace. That's what happened with her. You didn't notice the shift because it didn't happen in one moment. It happened across conversations, shared silence, small interactions that didn't seem important at the time. But to her, they were everything. Every time you spoke without pretending, she paid attention. Every time you showed a side of yourself that wasn't polished or perfect, she connected to it. Not because it impressed her, but because it felt real. And that's where most men get it wrong. You think attraction is about presenting your best version, the most confident, the most put together, the most in control. But deep emotional attachment doesn't grow from perfection. It grows from authenticity. She didn't fall for your strengths, she connected with your honesty. And here's the part that might surprise you. Your age didn't reduce her feelings, it stabilized them. Because with age comes predictability, emotional depth, and a sense of grounded presence that many people don't realize they crave until they experience it. You weren't chaos, you weren't uncertainty, you were steady. And for someone who values emotional security, that's powerful. But here's where it gets complicated. Familiarity creates comfort, but it also creates silence. She became so used to being around you, so comfortable in your energy, that expressing her feelings started to feel unnecessary, even risky. Because the moment she says something, everything changes. The dynamic shifts, the safety disappears. So instead, she stays quiet. She chooses to remain where she is, rather than risk losing access to you completely. And while she's doing that, you're moving through your life unaware, interpreting her presence as something simple, something casual. But it's not. It's layered, it's controlled, it's intentional. And the longer it stays unspoken, the deeper it becomes. Now think about this carefully. How many people have come and gone in your life, but she didn't? How many connections faded, but she remained consistent? That's not coincidence. That's emotional attachment that has already rooted itself deeper than you realize. And here's where the twist begins to form. Because what she feels isn't just about connection anymore. It's about something she hasn't shown you yet. Something that could completely change how you see her once it finally surfaces. Here's where things take a turn most men never anticipate. What she feels is no longer just quiet admiration. It has started to evolve into something more personal, more internal, and far more difficult to express. Because when a woman stays emotionally connected over time without receiving clear signals back, her mind begins to fill in the gaps. She starts to interpret your behavior, your silence, your patterns, and your consistency as meaningful data, not guesses, but evidence. She tells herself stories to maintain emotional balance, stories that justify why she feels the way she does, stories that protect her from disappointment while still allowing her to stay connected to you. And the longer this continues, the more those stories become part of her reality. At this point, her attachment isn't dependent on constant interaction. It's sustained by memory, expectation, and subtle hope. She replays moments where you were kind, attentive, or simply present. Those moments become anchors she returns to when uncertainty creeps in. But here's what you may not realize. She's also observing how you treat other people, how you respond under pressure, how you carry yourself when no one is trying to impress you. All of that contributes to how deeply she trusts your character. Trust like that doesn't form quickly. It forms through repetition, through consistency, through time. And while you may think she's just around, in her mind she's already categorized you as someone significant. Not necessarily defined, not necessarily claimed, but emotionally relevant in a way that is not easily replaced. This is why her behavior may seem subtle instead of obvious. She isn't trying to control the situation, She's trying to understand it while preserving her emotional position within it. And that creates a delicate balance. Because on one hand, she wants clarity. She wants to know where she stands. But on the other hand, asking directly could risk losing the very connection she's trying to protect. So she waits. She adjusts. She continues showing up in ways that don't expose too much, but still keep the connection alive. And if you've ever felt like someone in your life was different without being able to explain why, this is likely the reason. What you're sensing is not randomness. It's emotional depth that hasn't been acknowledged openly yet. And that unspoken depth is often where the most meaningful connections quietly begin to form. Now here's the part that changes everything, and it's not what most men expect. Her silence is not confusion, it's restraint. Because at some point, she became aware that expressing her feelings too early, or too directly, could disrupt the very dynamic that made her feel safe in the first place. So instead of risking rejection, she chose observation. Instead of pushing for answers, she chose patience. But patience doesn't mean absence of emotion, it means controlled emotion. She still feels. She still thinks about you. She still notices changes in your tone, your availability, your energy. But she regulates how much of that she allows to show. And that's where her attachment becomes more complex than you realize. Because while you're living your life without fully acknowledging her presence, she's mentally mapping your patterns. She's learning your habits, your preferences, your reactions under different circumstances. Not in a controlling way, but in a way that creates familiarity and emotional closeness over time. This is how emotional bonds deepen without explicit communication. Through repetition, through subtle consistency, through unspoken understanding. And here's the part that might hit you hardest. She's not waiting because she has no options. She's waiting because you became the reference point. That means other connections may exist in her life, other interactions may happen, but emotionally, you are the one she compares them to, consciously or not. And comparison creates a standard that makes you difficult to replace, even if you never realized you were being evaluated in that way. This doesn't mean she's stuck. It means she's selective, emotionally selective. And selective people don't rush their decisions. They observe longer. They feel deeper. They move only when something aligns with what they've already experienced internally. So while you may think nothing significant is happening, something very real is forming beneath the surface. Not loud, not obvious, but stable. And stability is often the foundation of the strongest connections, the ones that don't collapse under pressure or fade with time. Now, the real question isn't whether she feels something for you. The real question is whether you've been aware enough to recognize it, or whether you've been overlooking it because it didn't present itself in the way you expected. Because what comes next is where perception meets reality, and where most men finally realize they've been looking in the wrong direction the entire time. Now we arrive at the part most men either ignore or realize too late. Because once a woman reaches a certain level of emotional attachment, her behavior begins to shift in subtle but meaningful ways. Not dramatic changes, not sudden confessions, but quiet adjustments in how she engages with you. You may notice she becomes slightly more attentive at certain times, then distant at others. You may feel moments where her energy feels warmer, more present, almost inviting, followed by periods where she pulls back just enough to protect herself. This isn't inconsistency, it's emotional self-regulation. She is balancing two internal forces at the same time: the desire to connect deeper with you and the need to protect herself from investing further without clarity. And that internal tension creates a pattern that you can feel even if you can't fully explain it. This is why sometimes her presence feels reassuring, and other times it feels like she's just out of reach. She's not playing games. She's managing emotional risk. Because at this point, her feelings are no longer casual. They are structured by experience, reinforced by time, and protected by hesitation. And here's the part that will stay with you. She already knows more about you emotionally than you think she does. Not in a surface-level way, but in terms of how you respond to connection, how you handle attention, and how you behave when something matters to you. But she's waiting for one thing you haven't given her yet: clarity. Not necessarily a grand gesture, not perfection, not a scripted moment, just a clear signal that what she feels is either acknowledged or reciprocated in some form. Without that, she remains in a space of quiet observation, still connected, but not fully expressed. And this is where the truth becomes unavoidable. The connection you've been overlooking isn't defined by age, status, or timing. It's defined by mutual recognition. Because when two people truly see each other, the dynamic changes naturally. There's no guessing, no overanalyzing, no silent uncertainty that stretches on indefinitely. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Pay attention to the people who have been consistently present in your life without demanding anything in return. Not everyone who stays is random, and not everyone who feels deeply will say it out loud. Sometimes the strongest emotions are the ones that wait, until they are acknowledged.